Indeed. Indeed, Hake is here. Let me just make sure that we're live on all platforms. Yeah, wow. Impressive. All of the platforms except Twitch, which does usually connect a little bit late. I am James Hake, and I am back after, what, how many days? Monday I showed up. Tuesday I did Hake News, and then we're like, oh, Jesse, I got to cancel. You want to do the show for me? Shout out to Jesse Lee Peterson and to Nicolas for doing Hake News and the Hake Report in reverse. That's cool. Appreciate that. Very nice. Everybody filled in for me. And when I'm out, it's actually okay for ratings. Very cool. I appreciate that too. I will be getting to your calls, 888-775-3773. It is Friday, and it's February 19th already, 2021. Biden is the so-called president. Oftentimes we should say Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, who is not eligible to even be senator, much less a vice president. In my opinion, I think she's an anchor baby, not a natural-born citizen. But that is natural-born citizen in the eyes of the fake news and the establishment. So, whatever. I'm going to be... I have some things to touch on. I've been reading, a little bit. I read about lynchings a little bit. I read about this communist folk singer a little bit. I've even read about so-called climate change and watched a great video about so-called climate change a little bit. And of course, the Hake News topics of today, there's a whole lot of censorship going on and some backlash from governments regarding censorship. In some cases, I'm on the side of the governments. Unfortunately, there are many evil governments who want to get in the game, get in bed even more so with these huge social media companies. Elizabeth Warren, the UN, and scumbags like that. Let me open up my Restream chat so I can catch what you guys are saying. It's just a big mess. It's disgusting. And many things going on. One lady allegedly got fired, but she shouldn't be working anyway for not wanting to take the COVID shot. Thankfully, I've heard that a third of our military have turned down the COVID vaccine, right? And I say thankfully because I believe that people should assert their freedom. If they have a concern about it, they should have the right to turn it down, right? Anyway. And so I like that. I'm glad that they're not getting fired, but there's this whole big push from the so-called leadership, Joint Chiefs of Staff, who are just a bunch of establishment deep state suckers. I don't think they're any good. Are pushing, it's a good thing, we should have it, and it's just a mess. Let me open up my Trovo stuff so I can track your super chats. You can super chat on Trovo, as well as you can super chat on, what is it called? Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/The Hake Report. Anyway, all that, including your calls, let's get on with the show. Oh, gosh.
It's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
What's up, guys? We're going to be talking about communism and brainwashing and the mass delusions that are being pushed on us. And it's a big mess. And plus your calls. Any advice on dealing with back pain? I welcome it. And all that.
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, how are you all doing? I feel like I lost my voice Tuesday morning and that it's never gotten completely back for some reason, which is strange. Maybe because I haven't been using it. use it or lose it, right? I don't know if that works exactly that way. But can you guys hear it? I feel like I don't have the edge in my voice like I normally have. Shaggy Boy says, good hair, beta back, the Jake Report.com. You know, when I was out, I learned that one of my competitors died. And I was sorry to hear about it. At just a young age of 70 years old. Rush Limbaugh, he died. You guys know about that. Yeah, of, I guess, complications from lung cancer. And, of course, the evil people were celebrating. They were calling him evil when they're the ones who are evil. They hate him, and to this day, they hate him. And to this day, I was pausing for that, right? And they're come up with any excuse to hate him. And that's very deceitful. Because just like racism, oh, the only thing we hate is hate. Give me a break. No, you're hateful people. You don't love anybody. So many people feel justified. You know, that's the trick, right? You feel justified in being mad, in hating. He was a chronic cigar smoker. He was, I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff going on. That's what Black Phillip says. I saw a clip of him being interviewed by Martha McCallum 13 years ago or 14 years ago in 2007. And after he had come back, because he went away and came back and all kinds of things. But I respected that guy. I saw one story from a Christian website that said that he was in hell. And I don't see how they can know that for sure. They disagreed with him about supporting the Bush wars, for example, as evidence that he sold out and did the wrong thing in some ways. In some ways. Like, they think that he, what did they say? They thought that he hypnotized the people to be in support of the wars, like as if terrorism, Islamic terrorism, was as big of a threat as communism, or a bigger threat than communism. And we all know that communism is a way bigger threat. I think. We have, enemies within America overturning America and pretending that America is about communism. Remember when Obama would always say, I don't know if you remember this, but Obama would say things like that's not who we are. America is about this or that. And he cites some communist imitation moral, right? Fake value. And we've had that problem a long time. But honestly, I didn't realize that the Bushes were as evil as they were. We all were many of us Christians and conservatives were not that happy with the Bushes. And we didn't like all the spending and the kissing up and the pretending we're compassionate conservatives and all this fake stuff. I wasn't paying that much attention, but I could see through. He's just a phony politician. And I thought that's all we could get was phony politicians until Trump came along and showed the difference between a genuine normal person, a regular-based boomer, if you will, and these phony politicians who've been running stuff. And Trump won. He made those people look silly, and they made themselves look silly opposing him. Bush, Romney, McCain, even Ted Cruz, who's under major fire right now over something that I feel is a bit petty and ridiculous. Although maybe he should have been okay, let me cancel this trip because he went down to Cancun with his daughters. I think his failing is being kind of a simp, right? Where he kisses up to women, his wife, his daughters, right? That's what I think that his major failing is, being a kiss up, a simp. I think that's what it is, his weakness. And plus, he's trained as a lawyer, so he's not himself anymore. He is so phony. When he talks, he does these pauses and talks with drama. Just a fake politician. And I like some of his stances, right? He's like supposed to be conservative, but whatever. I don't jump in the bandwagon and attacking him for going to Cancun, but I think he could have been, he went down to the border with who's that other guy who's used to be a tough conservative, and then he got hammered really hard and apologized and groveled. He called Obama racist. He has white hair. He used to be an alcoholic, I think he said. Glenn Beck. Ted Cruz and Glenn Beck, several years ago now, or a few years ago, went down to the border to give soccer balls and teddy bears to the illegal alien children coming across the border, because there were unaccompanied alien minors, right? Unaccompanied alien children, something like that, UACs, during the tail end of the Obama administration, or the last few years of the Obama administration. And he was just kissing up. He could go do that. Why couldn't he do some PR thing for the, the power outages and the complete mismanagement of Texas's mess? Turtle No Neck says, Hake, I've had personal success with back issues, staying away from physical therapy. Wow, nice. I appreciate that. For me, it's a combination of chiropractor and masseuse on a regular basis that has produced lasting results. I appreciate all the tips. I was listening to the Jesse Lee Peterson show and Jesse hosting the Hake Report. Joel said the right diet fixed his lower back issues, and plus exercise. Other people said different things. I saw the super chat, and I believe I got an email earlier I'm going to be checking my emails. Earlier this morning from somebody for the Jesse Lee Peterson show talking about fasting. It's interesting. I think, as I was going back to eating veggies and all that stuff, I was like, you know what, this stuff does help. People say that veggies just rot in your stomach. I think so does meat. I guess you just have to eat the right stuff, right amount. Anyway, it's a phony world out there. Trump exposed it. I'm grateful to him for that. More so, in my view and in many of your views, right? Trump coming on the scene was a major, what they call red pill. And so is like the evil unmasked, of course. Turtle No Neck says, masseuse should be used more than the chiropractor, in my opinion. Yeah, exercise, stretching, especially the legs. I used to go past my toes. I used to be able to, you bend down and touch your toes. I used to be able to go like flat hand on the ground. And right now, not without bending my knees a lot. And even then, what a mess. I will be getting to your calls. But let me quickly just touch on some of these Hake News items, because I have these pictures in the folder. They're pushing, speaking of the fake world, they're speaking chest feeding instead of breastfeeding. Even in the UK, their hospitals in the United Kingdom, according to Campus Reform, have begun using the term chest feeding instead of breastfeeding, just years after the U.S. academics, anti-American U.S. academics, I might add, published a study in which they argued the promotion of breastfeeding as the natural way to feed a child has many negative societal effects. Meaning, typically, very typical, the LGBTQIA agenda radicals and feminists and communists in general, enemies of America, enemies of men and children, and honestly, enemies of women and POCs and the people struggling with the LGBT delusions and perversions, the people dealing with those temptations and stuff like that. They hate reality. They hate reality. They hate God. They hate Mother Nature, if you will. Nature, God, common experience, reality says women breastfeed the kids, right? And women are women and men are men. And men and women go together. Men don't go with men, and women don't go with women in terms of sexually, in terms of getting married and having children and having a family. It just doesn't. There's nice people who want to do that stuff. Deluded. They're deluded. And it does no favors to pretend that it's right, except for solving the seared consciences of the females. Yeah, just changing the word. It's so ridiculous. And it's to kiss up to the transgenders. And this is pushed by the so-called academics. And yet, you go on Reddit, because I've been going on Reddit sometimes. You go on Reddit and they say, you have a study for that? And you make some type of assertion, right? Children don't generally like kissing. They don't like their parents kissing them much. They don't like their aunts and uncles kissing them. They don't like older people giving all this attention and affection. A little bit is fine, yeah. But there's parents who kiss their children on the lips, even into adulthood, and that's considered weird by many, and it's not considered weird by many as well, because I don't know, cultures get corrupted, or the women do it a lot, or the men become kind of female-minded and want to do that. And you say kids don't really like that stuff. They're not into all this kissing and stuff. You got a study for that? Meanwhile, the people who make these studies are academics who push mess like this, or who kiss up to the idea that LGBTQIA is natural and normal and not harmful for human beings. What a mess. And that's been pushed in Harvard and other places. Just degenerate. Meanwhile, the life expectancy is going down again. And I think that it was going up thanks in part to an awakening in the culture and President Trump and being good for the economy and a little bit pretty good for morals generally, and positivity and confidence. President Trump exuded confidence. It was just like what Nick and Jesse Lee Peterson and Nick, his producer, played for you guys at the beginning of the show today about Jimmy Carter, that who was known as one of the worst presidents ever until Obama came on the scene. Jimmy Carter talked about a crisis in confidence, which he couldn't give confidence because he was a female-minded Democrat, right? To this day, he's female-minded. Maybe that's why he's living so long.
To this day.
But now he calls Trump a jerk. Yeah, he's a jerk. But President Trump exuded confidence, positivity. Don't let this thing run your life. And they claimed that that was harmful. Talking about the virus. Don't let this thing run your life. Oh, that's so harmful. Give me a break. Isn't it so much like a woman, or so much like the angry spirit inside you, to want everybody to be miserable and panic and pretend things are as bad and as terrible and important as you want everybody to pretend that they are? And be all melodramatic and feel like your job is so important if you're a nurse or a doctor. Oh, we are heroes. You need to listen to us. We need to lead. The scientists are to lead, according to these Democrats and sick-minded people. No, scientists don't lead. They inform, and hopefully they're informing you honestly, and then the leaders lead based on their own wisdom and maybe a little bit of input from the scientists. Maybe, if you trust the scientists, right? Who the scientists have shown they're not trustworthy. Anyway. So yes, life expectancy supposedly dropped. But, you know, you never know, because this is from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which is part of the HHS, I think, the Health and Human Services, which is a U.S. federal department, which means deep state, which means a bunch of liberals. You look at the donations from these departments of individual donations, most of the donations go to Hillary Clinton. In 2016, they did. So these people aren't sane. Anyway. And I feel that Biden, I sense that Biden, based on what I've read, right? Based on what I've read, I've heard that Biden is very torn about the migrant caravans coming in because he wants to put a stop to it because it's not going to be good PR for pushing through his amnesty. They don't mind people coming in here and committing crimes, but they don't want it to get out that they're coming in here and committing crimes. That's why they got mad, they being the establishment, right? They got mad that Trump said Mexico's not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. And it's not just Mexicans that they're sending. They're sending through the Central and South America people too, right? We know that. But most of them are Mexicans, or have been historically. He's told the truth. They don't like that. They don't mind them committing crimes. They just want you to cover it up. And they don't want these people coming in committing crimes because there's going to be a whole lot of right-wing scrutiny and media and social media putting out information about the crimes that these people commit or the fact that they're not getting tested and all kinds of stuff. It's bad PR for the purpose of transforming the country into being socialist-minded, because most of these people who are coming in here are socialist-minded. But it's not good PR for them to come in right now. So he has to say Guatemala and Honduras, or whoever is dealing with these people right now, hold them off. But don't be violent. We don't want violence. Of course they're going to have to be violent because you saw how they were tearing down barricades and breaking through gates and things, right? So of course there's going to be like the police have to use force. Use force. Tear gas, all kinds of stuff. Because these are not peaceful people, many of them coming in. I hear that most of them are men in many of these caravans, mostly men. Not these women and children. They do cover stories, sob stories, the media does, for these women and children escaping domestic violence. Give me a break. That just reflects badly on the women, too. Right? I think so. And then single mothers with children raised by single mothers, that's bad news too for society if they're coming up here. That's just bringing problems. But they want, and then they're also giving special treatment too for the LGBTQIA people, because they're not coming from countries that welcome LGBTQIA, so we have to welcome them here. They're just sick. Female-minded Joe Biden and the rest of these people, whoever's really running the show, right? What a mess. Anyway, okay, I got to get to some calls. Lines are full, guys, so I will get to the calls. I want to talk about these lynchings and this communist. By the way, shout out to AJ Gallardo, the original writer of the Hake Report theme song, my friend. It was funny because Joel Friday playing a little screen, what is it called? A little slideshow during the intro song. He showed the picture of this country music or folk music guy named Woody Guthrie. Did you know that that guy's name is Woodrow Wilson Guthrie? Well, it's not anymore. He's dead. But his name was Woodrow Wilson Guthrie. And named after the New Jersey Governor Woodrow Wilson, who became president the same year that he was born, or elected anyway, the same year that he was born, 1912 or something like that. And Woodrow Wilson was evil, from what I've heard. Basically a communist. And this Woodrow Wilson Guthrie, Woody Guthrie, he wrote songs before my parents were born. And he died at 57 or something like that. Young, pretty young, or 60 something. But he had Huntington disease or something like that. But he was a communist. And he has this machine kills fascists, either a sticker or painted on his guitar. This machine kills fascists. And it's kind of interesting what he said about fascists. From what I understand, these people, these liberals, including these communists, were for Hitler before they were against him. Anyway, I'll get to that. I will get to that. But I got to get to calls as well. He was Antifa. Not a pro-America guy, I don't think. Anyway, let me get to Bobby in Texas. Bobby, how are you doing?
Hey, James, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing fine as well, thank you.
Got the beta back under control?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I also suffer from back problems. Chiropractor and massage really, probably the best advice I've heard so far.
You know, somebody else said they go on an incline table or whatever, the thing where you can basically hang upside down and loosen up your back.
I have one of those. I don't really notice much relief from that. I do I let my 4-year-old son walk on my back. I mean, he's kind of terrible at it, but that gives me a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
Mostly massage and chiropractor has been the best results I've ever gotten.
Have you tried much with regard to like exercise, stretching, good nutrition and stuff like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to say yes, but no.
Right.
No, I mean, I stretch and I exercise some, not as much as I used to when I was younger, but.
Right.
No, but I've always had a bad back. I'm about 6'6", so I don't know. It might have something to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a long torso. I'm not extremely tall, but I have like when I sit down, people think that I'm taller than I really am.
Is it your lower back that hurts you?
It's lower and middle.
Yeah.
Right now it's a middle back.
Lower.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. All right, man. I'll get to my subject.
Appreciate it.
We were talking. I was actually your last call on Friday.
Okay.
Last week, and we were talking about. I made the point that I say that police have a monopoly on violence.
Oh yeah. Right.
Okay, and you chime back with you kind of pushed it off on we need to get black people under control and black people are running amok and et cetera.
True.
Which, I mean, that's fine. I don't disagree. Black people are, but I mean, also in my area where I live, that's not an issue. Like I've never seen a BLM person in my, in my area.
Yeah.
But I do have lots of black friends. I have black employees. Never heard any of them, like my whole life. I'm 40 now, and I've never heard any black person complain about police brutality, racism, anything. And I even grew up in what I would consider a pretty, I know you don't like to say racist, but it was hardcore all white. I think there was a sign that said, like before I was born, there was a sign that said, to have your black ass out of town before the sun goes down.
Maybe that's why they aren't complainers, because they were kind of kept in line.
Right. And it could be. And there are black people, a lot of black people in the city. They do live in kind of the lower income part of the city.
Yeah.
And but you don't see them rising up and doing crazy stuff and beating white people in the streets. Like this doesn't happen in rural Texas.
Okay, nice.
I can understand that in L.A., but in Texas, it's not that way. We don't have it's starting to it'll probably get there the more that, these high-profile athletes and, people that are in the public eye keep complaining and, oh, I'm so pressed. Oh, man, LeBron can't leave his house? Oh, right. Man, we must have it real bad.
Yeah.
Because LeBron's a billionaire and he can't leave his house. So, it might push and pursue that way. But as far as police go, I'm a white guy. Police harass white people just as much as they harass black people. No, nothing new. And they have the right to. They have, everything is in their favor to do whatever they want, to impose. There's bad police. We all know that. But why can't we discuss, a better idea, another system that might work better?
You think we need a whole different system? You're are you libertarian leaning?
No, I'm not a libertarian. I'm a conservative Republican, always have been.
Are you the one who mentioned Michael Malice to me?
Yeah. He's the one that kind of talks about it and gives me some of the ideas that I've heard. I've only heard one podcast of his, like somebody shared it with me. And he didn't go into a huge amount of detail on, how it would work, how it could possibly work. Because, he was talking about, like, privatized, the neighborhood pays for their own security and, cuts on tax dollars. You're not paying for, the whole world to be policed. And, maybe that works, but there's still, issues in that I can, automatically come to mind. Like, how do you, solve a murder? How do you, solve child abductions and things like that?
You know what? I do like the idea of more local control in general. It's just a common sense thing. There is a whole propaganda against locals being in control, right? Oh, the locals shut out. They don't want to don't talk to outsiders. With all cases where there's lynchings that took place, don't talk to outsiders. This is like 100 years ago or more. And there's this thing like, a hick town can become like a cult town and completely shut out and just oppress its citizens. Give me a break. I'd rather be able to face the mayor or whoever, the city council or whoever, than to have to like appeal to the UN or appeal to the DOJ or whatever.
Right.
It's like
exactly.
you have no recourse. Yeah. Right. So that's a good thing. But I think more important than finding the right system is becoming right ourselves and pushing morals back on society. And then once the people are moral again, then they can see clearly on how to fix the setup of the government. You know
I almost also feel as though like the police have also got like a political agenda as far as it goes. Like even though Trump and conservatives back them, like it wasn't like the police were protecting, the Republicans and the people that were supporting the Back the Blue.
Right. The police,
that wasn't the case.
The police are beholden to their chiefs and their mayors. They kind of have to obey their chiefs and their mayors, and their chiefs and mayors, by and large, are a bunch of evil people, Democrats, scum of the earth, rhinos, or whatever. Even if they're nonpartisan, they're kiss-ups, right? Kiss-ups to the squeaky wheels. Yeah.
And they'll just be like, oh, well, we don't want to fight that fight. They'll call us racist if we jump in and do something there.
And so that's why they become kind of, and they're brainwashed in, just like the rest of us, so many of them undoubtedly are brainwashed against men, against whites, against individual rights, like you guys, I say you guys, but many conservatives, many libertarians want to protect, because there's a lot of constitutional rights that supposedly get violated by the cops.
Right.
Who get on a power trip.
100%.
Yeah.
And if they want to do something, they're going to do it. That's the thing. That's the problem. And, if you were more responsive if the neighborhoods and so on were more responsible for that business, like you wouldn't have probably that sense of, I need to, cause trouble. I need to do this. I need to, it might take away from that power.
But this is why whites should speak up for themselves and make some noise and be proactive in protecting their rights, because if a cop wrongs a Hispanic or a black or a woman or a illegal or a LGBT, they can get their activist group and make noise and get some sympathy for the black and pretend to protect the rights for the so-called minorities. But there's no such thing.
If there was an activist group for the whites.
It's not that you really want an activist group so much for the whites, but they have to be outspoken. Maybe it does, but usually they get marginalized. Like the men's rights activists and whites, they get marginalized if they try to form an activist group.
If one white
but I'm talking about as individuals and at large, just be shameless. I'm not talking about forming a group. I'm talking about just speaking out and being.
But if one person tries to stand up for himself, like one white person tries to stand up for himself, like it's not gonna carry any weight.
It
Nobody's
might.
gonna care.
You never
People
know.
are going to shout
You
you
just have
down
to-
as a.
Not true. Not completely true.
Like, you're a privileged white person. You don't.
But you don't have to. You don't have to cower to that notion. You just be shameless.
We're not going to get any.
You can win
There's
anyway.
not going to be any. Well, you might get support. You might be right there.
Yeah, because you have to do it. You have to do it.
There are people that are still
in a wise way. You can do it. There's a time to do it and a time not to. A way to do it and a way not to. You can't be bitter about it.
Right.
Yeah, because look at how Trump won. You know, he was called all those things and he still won because he was shameless about it.
And he won the second time too.
Right. Yep. So anyway.
All right, that sounds good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just felt like we kind of crossed when you had to go last week. It seemed like we kind of rushed the ending, and it was like I didn't feel like you really comprehended my point. So I was like, I better call back. I'm
glad you did. Appreciate it, Bobby. It's good to hear from you again.
Good to hear from you. Thanks, James.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Let me get to Samuel in Sweden. He has some advice for me. What's up, Samuel?
I'm doing well.
Hey.
And I just realized that perhaps I should give you this advice because I have had back problems, no longer. And I want to tell you how I overcame that.
Okay.
So something that's really missed in everything that has to do with exercises is the body stretching. And most famous, I guess, is yoga. But when I became a Christian 10 years ago, I pretty early found a Christian alternative to yoga called PraiseMoves. It was
PraiseMoves?
PraiseMoves, yeah, it's one word. It was created by Lorette Willis, and she's still very active about PraiseMoves. But it's like it's a Christian alternative with all this worshipping of Hindu gods.
Right.
And I mean, you know, my back has become so strong, so it's ridiculous.
Nice.
And you know, there's an example. Before I started doing it, I could almost, if I stood up for 3 minutes or so, I started to get back pains, but I never feel from my back anymore. And you know, so I don't like to bet, but I do think that you will probably become a lot better if you start to do stretching. I say body stretching because it's not just stretching different limbs and things like that. It's like the entire body. You know, like you see dogs or animals, they stretch, you know, they take their entire body. And when I was a child, I mean, I naturally would just stand and stretch my entire body, you know, naturally.
Right. Yep.
Perhaps you remember. But, you know, when you grow up, and most grown up I know, they don't stretch the body anymore. And that will probably be the reason for all this back pain. So my good advice is to look up PraiseMoves by Lorette Willis. And honestly, I just have 5 exercises of hers. I mean, she's created hundreds of different moves.
All right.
I just do 5. And that's the only thing I do, and I have managed to get along 10 years without any back pain problems.
That's cool. I appreciate that, Samuel. Can you send me an email? Because I don't quite comprehend what you're saying with the name of this place.
Yeah.
Send me an email about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
It's my phone acting up. It's to buy my phone back.
No, your phone is fine. It's just that it's hard to understand which letters, how it's spelled and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, I can nail it, but it's praise, you know, praise the Lord, and moves, like moves, make a move. But
okay, praise moves.
I email.
All right.
Yeah, I emailed it to you anyway.
Full body stretching, not. Chrissy's asking, what kind of stretching? Body stretching, like full body, like you.
Yeah, your entire body from the bottom of your feet.
Like how dogs do it, and cats.
Yeah, it's the entire body. You're getting everything stretched out.
So medieval stretching racks were a legit medical treatment, says Base America First, Base AF. Nice. Thank you, Samuel. I appreciate that, man. It's good to hear from you.
Nice. Have a great day.
You as well. Take care. Oh, man. Shaggy Boy says, I can't understand, Samuel. Sorry about that. Oh, Greg gave me a super chat on streamlabs.com/the Hake Report and said, tip for beta back. All back problems are related to stress. It's not diet, not even stretching, it's stress. Don't be so stressed out, beta back, and you'll be fine. Nice. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, because, well, think about it. Like, when you stress, you may not even eat right, sleep right, exercise right, all that stuff. Anyway, interesting. I appreciate it, Greg. That's nice. Based AF says, welcome back. I write all my own puns. You were missed. Thank you, man. Kev, by the way, I got to catch up with the podcasts. I did not do any of the podcasts. Shout out to JLP. There were some excellent calls when he filled in for me. Thank you. I will be releasing the podcasts. Maybe I'll do like I did last time I was out, like one a day. Okay, so it'll take me a few days to catch up. By mid next week, hopefully I'll be all caught up with the podcast. Kev Miracle says, with a super chat, we all want to know, Hake, will there be a Holly Hake? He's laughing. I don't know. I don't know. Wait and see. And shout out to Justice S for the super chat and the tip about from a couple days ago about the decent deep tissue massage therapist. I've heard my friends go to Vegas to get the buffet, go bowling, and get massages. Deep tissue massage in Vegas. Thank you. That's cool. And thank you to Hake's Back, King Alpha Nerd, and the Hawk Computer Smell, and all the rest of the Super Chat supporters on Streamlabs. Let me just double check the Trovo. Shout out to Turtle No Neck with the winner. Very nice. And hype from Brandon M. I see so many of these stay safe things, these super chats. I think those are super chats too, right? Stay safe on Trovo. I'm still getting used to it. What a mess. Oh man. Okay. Let me plow through a few more calls and then I will cover maybe at the top of this hour, this coming hour, I'll cover this Woody Guthrie and lynchings. Just some interesting information in my opinion, okay? First, let me get to my second favorite caller, Earl in Michigan. How are you doing, Earl?
Hola, buenos dias.
Thank you.
Sir James /Nazi. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Farrakhan communist.
So, is your back or you back?
It's back. You ever have back problems? What do you say?
I said, I see Jesse had your back.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Speaking of backs.
Yep.
But just having a little fun.
Nice.
But there's a guy named Luther Hall, I guess from St. Louis, talking about police brutality. He's to be awarded about, I think they agreed on $5 million from the police department.
Oh yeah. I'm looking it up right now, and I see a Newsweek article, far left Newsweek, says undercover black police officer Luther Hall, beaten by white colleagues, paid a $5 million settlement in 2017 during protests in St. Louis. Maybe riots in St. Louis. Left with a tailbone injury, herniated discs in his neck and back, and facial injuries that left him unable to eat after the attack. Working undercover during protests followed the acquittal of a police officer charged with the 2011 so-called murder of Anthony Lamar Smith, a black male. Interesting. Who knows, man?
Yeah, he was sent there to investigate some property damage. That's by the rioters and so forth.
Undercover, huh?
When they assaulted him, and they had just messed with the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You know, they found out he's just not any black. He wasn't just the average Negro. And there would be repercussions at play. to pay. Not only are they're being charged federally now.
Do you know the story?
Because-
Do you know the story, like how he came to be beaten?
Well, they said
22-year veteran of the
that he
police
was
force.
driving to the area and there was a police blockade or something where he needed to go to look at some property damage. And then they just ordered him to do something, and according to him, he complied, and so forth. And they just proceeded to throw him to the ground and beat him.
There
Now,
was
he's
a
policeman. He
there was
knows
a
all-
female
He knows
co-
all the protocols.
there was a female
He knows
cop
it.
involved too.
Yes, it was, and I think she was also charged with what they call the hiding evidence.
Yeah, lying or something, allegedly.
So forth. They also lied to the grand jury. They would have federal charges, and so 3 of them has confessed to it.
Well, man, it's hard to know without seeing what actually happened, without being there to know like what exactly went down. When you're in the heat of a moment dealing with riots and stuff, it's some cops may overreact, or who knows what's going to happen, or what really went down. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Are you thinking that the cops just beat him just because he
I don't make a blanket case to say this is all policemen. I'm just saying those ones that act out of character or whatever should be charged. Police accountability. That's what I'm talking about. Not all policemen, not all, but not to protect the ones and circle around the ones who do violate people's rights and so forth.
Right, but the violation of rights, it would be a lot easier if you didn't just give them an excuse, because the blacks are so out of control that it just gives them an excuse.
No, we're not going to generalize and talk about other folks. It's an individual
I'm generalizing.
case by case.
I'm going to generalize because blacks
you
are
can
so
generalize it,
because
but,
in St. Louis,
that has nothing to do.
it
You
does
don't
not.
generalize
Yes,
that-
it does have something to do with the situation.
That you have a white that have serial killers, but you're not going to generalize that every white that you come up with should be looked at as a serial killer.
I never
You go
said
by
every.
Serial case.
Serial killers.
Case by
Serial
case.
killers are not a widespread
You're not
problem at this
responsible
point.
for what others do.
But
You're only responsible for
you're ignoring the
what
fact.
you want, James.
You're ignoring the fact that St. Louis was on fire in some of these riots. There were actual out of control blacks. And when you're
That has
out of
nothing to
control
do
blacks,
with
you're giving the cop the
individual case.
excuse to go a little out of control themselves.
Well, when they get out of control and they violate the rights and so forth, they get punished for it.
Right, but this is like a disproportionate punishment
There ain't no
because
excuse.
Listen to this, Earl. In the headline it says black cop beaten by white colleagues. Give me a break. What do they know about whether race played any part of this? They're pretending that it was racist when they have no clue.
You know they didn't. That's just facts.
Yeah, I said you have no clue.
Was he not beaten by white cops?
But when it's a black on white, they don't say
Was
it.
he not beaten by white cops?
I don't know. According to the
Was he
story,
not beaten by white cops?
according to the story, maybe. According to the story,
Was he not
maybe.
beaten by white cops?
Yes.
Of course he was.
And how about Earl? Earl, Earl. Wait
don't dance
up,
around
Earl.
the-
Hold on. How about when an illegal alien commits a crime? Do they ever call it out as an illegal alien? No, they don't. When a black commits the crime, they cover up the fact that he's black. So they're only going after whites.
I don't think they cover up.
They do. They definitely cover
I've been
up.
looking at.
They
I've been
downplay
looking
it.
at.
They hype
crimes
it up to
blacks
make the whites look
committed
racist.
before
Earl,
you were born,
Earl.
and they used to always mention blacks doing.
That's
that was
because
the culprit.
in the
I don't
olden
know when you
days-
think they start covering it up.
because
When did they start doing that?
communism took over and it swayed more against
When
white
was
people.
this?
I don't know, over the course of the past 60 years, 80 years.
It hasn't.
Yes,
I mean,
it has.
longer than you are. Long before that.
But you're not paying
And
attention.
They wasn't
You're
covering it
still,
up.
Earl, You're still
They
living
were
in the
doing it.
Earl.
You had
Earl,
the news media
what's going on with your phone? What the heck?
for decades before you were born.
Huh? 5 decades? But you're living in the
I said
past.
for decades. So there wasn't no hiding. There wasn't.
Yes, there is
that's
hiding
why
now.
Crime,
We're talking
that's
about
why
reality.
Crime
Earl.
is literally labeled as black folks because all they did was focus on on crimes committed by blacks.
That's not exactly true. But
They
Earl,
labeled.
I get that back in the day, the media was more, in my opinion, more honest. But maybe you have a point. Maybe they were hyper focused when a black person did it. But today they're hyper focused when a white person does it. And if you don't see that, you're utterly blind and you're living in the past.
I see. Because when white folks used to do it back in the day, they had so much power and clout. It was useless. It was useless to go against the cops. You had no what these phones are called now, where you got cameras and everything on it.
Yeah.
There was none of that. It was a cop's word against yours, and they knew that when it comes down to it, the judge are going to believe him in every case.
You're not even talking about
nothing.
you changed the subject.
No repercussions.
I know, I get that, but you changed the subject. I'm talking about headlines.
No, I'm just saying you real life.
No, you're not talking about real life. Real life back then. You're not talking about real life today.
It's still today.
No, even back then,
It's still today.
No, to this day, they're anti-white and anti-justice.
It still happens.
You know we've been fighting 400 and still fighting to this
You're
day.
silly, Earl. Anyway.
No, you crazy. Hey, what about, I wanted to hear your take on lynching.
Lincoln?
Lynching.
Oh, lynching. Okay, yeah, I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah, I want to talk to you so I can dispute what you're going to say.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
You can dispute me next week.
Oh, yeah, I know you're going to get off and go about it when I can't say nothing about it.
I mean, we've been talking for 10 minutes about other stuff.
I know the routine.
Yeah. But, yeah, I will give my take. Basically, it confirmed what I felt, what I've learned. I don't know what's going on, but your phone keeps beeping at me. Like you have a modem. Anyway, man, we'll talk. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Adios.
Adios. Robert in Kansas wants to talk about this Texas storm. What's up, Robert? It's good to hear from you.
Hey, Hakers, man, you're looking good, man. Maybe hit the bench press, but
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you back.
Appreciate that, man.
I have a couple topics. My main one is the storm, and then as a trainer, I want to talk about your back.
Okay.
But I want to do an addendum. I talked about on Jesse's show about the police being evil. And I want to say, just so everyone's clear, that I don't mean the men are now women, right? So now there's women too. But the man on the ground with you, like the police officer that that you can see and be around, that's not what I'm talking about. That's just another man doing a job. He goes home and has dinner and drinks a beer just like everybody. So that's not what I'm talking about. When I say the police are evil, I mean the institution.
I gotcha.
Mean all police, every single one of them, because the institution is evil, is what I'm saying. So, okay. As far as this storm goes, Hake, as you may know, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and I'm a native Texan, born, raised there, and most of my family is still there. And I've been consulting with my elders, some of them up in their high 80s as far as age.
Yeah.
And they say that they have never seen anything like this in their entire life. Okay, so what they told me is that they've had days where it would get down to zero or very cold, but it's only 1 or 2 days. They've never had it where it's day after day after day of sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah.
And so what I believe they're doing, Hake, my conspiracy is that this storm is either man-made or let's say man-manipulated might be a better word, where they're bringing down the polar vortex at an extreme rate way far south into areas that don't freeze. And they're doing this as a beta test so that next winter, or sometime at some point, they will do this to the entire country They will kill the power and water simultaneously, like on purpose. They might blame it on the cold, but then they're going to basically, it'll be the entire middle of the country where all the whites and all the conservatives live. It'll be the entire middle of the country, and I think they're going to try to kill us all, Hake. That's what I think they're going to do. If you look at certain websites like Deagle.com, which is a military projection website, they estimate the population of America being at 100 million in 2025.
Whoa!
And this is the exact
instead of 330 million.
Yes, sir. So we're talking 2/3 of the country murdered between now and 4 years from now. And so the way that you might do that is you shut off the grid, and the way people are today, they can't do for themselves, and
Right.
they're going to have no water, no food. In a couple weeks, everyone's dead. So that's what I'm worried about, man. If this is a beta test for a nationwide power outage that goes ahead and gets rid of all the conservatives and all these people who won't go along. Like Texas was questioning the election. I'm not saying that's why they did it, but, they question the election. They have an independent electric grid outside of the rest of the nation. And I think they just did it as a test, bro, to see, kind of what would happen as maybe if they just did it for a week.
Well,
if they do it for a week.
I would just leave it as an I don't know, because it's quite possible. There's many times where there's a once in a lifetime event. A lot of people try to blame this on climate change and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. But the other thing is, you can also attribute this to not just corruption, but incompetence, because corrupt people are incompetent. And they're competent at pushing evil, right? But they're not competent at running a successful thing. Like, I watched Tucker Carlson the other night, and he's talking about how these people are not qualified to keep civilization going. And the people who are running this this organization that's supposed to protect the power, I don't know if it was last night or a couple nights ago, but he said that. He said something to that effect. And so it's more likely to me, although I just don't know, that the people running the show are just incompetent over there. But anyway, that's interesting. It's nice to hear what the going theories are.
Certainly, Hake, and I agree with you. This could be just an event of a natural occurrence. Absolutely, that could be the case. I just want to let you know that 90-something-year-old native Texans have never seen this before in 90-something years. It's pretty odd.
I heard that it wasn't actually day after day of sub-zero temperatures, just one day that was below zero. But the power outages were multiple days, is what I've heard.
Maybe I meant below freezing. So
below freezing, yeah. Below freezing all week.
I know you're going on break. I'll be real fast with your back. So it's your back, Hake. So what I want you to do is because I'm a personal trainer.
Nice.
So what I want you to do, Hake, is I want you to look into this for yourself. I want you to look at the anatomy of the back, the anatomy, like the muscle, the bone structure. And I want you to learn this for yourself because it's part of your body. And I want you to do two things primarily, is make sure that all the muscles on the back of your body, like your back, your legs, things like that, are limber enough and stretched out enough where your back, that the disc in your back, so your back can elongate to where it naturally would. So you want those muscles to be limber so your back is allowed to stretch.
Yeah.
What goes into the nutrition and the hydration is that you have your spine, the bone, you have the cartilage in between the bone, you have your spinal cord, you have everything in your back area. You want nutrition and hydration so you are able to heal.
Okay.
And then finally, you want to strengthen the front of your body, especially your abs and your core. That's going to basically bring your back into alignment, like your spine and your bones and your spine. If your abs in the front of your body are strong, they're going to bring the back forward to a position that it's supposed to be in. It's kind of counterintuitive to think that the front of your body can make the back of your body feel better. But if your abs are strong and your core is strong, it will produce an alignment effect where your back will be straight and allowed, and as long as you're limber enough too, it'll start to straighten out, elongate, and with diet and hydration, you'll get that the healing and the nutrition you need to heal your body yourself. So
Wow.
take care of yourself, brother. You're real important. So I want to see you on here. Okay, don't be making Jesse, that old man. You're making it worse, bro.
Yeah.
So don't be doing that to him. Okay, brother.
I appreciate that, Robert. That makes a lot of sense. Appreciate that. That's cool.
I'll let you go on break, bro. Have a good day.
All right, you as well. Yeah, in the coming hour, we're already into the second hour. I'm going to get back to Ben and T and the rest of you guys. Appreciate you hanging on. Ben, first I'm going to get right to Ben, and then I will get to this lynching story so that Earl can call back next week and we can argue and have it out. All right, guys, hang tight for a couple of minute break, and I'll be right back for the rest of hour 2. This is James Hake back with the EIP Network, Excellence in Podcasting with Talent on Loan from God. That's a hat tip to Rush Limbaugh, the late, great Rush Limbaugh, who had the EIB Network, Excellence in Broadcasting. But for us, it's Excellence in Podcasting, although it hasn't been that excellent because I haven't been uploading the shows. What a mess. What a shame. They are trying to censor podcasts too, but it's hard to. It's very hard to. But I don't know if they're trying, but there are calls to. I mean, they are trying to censor some of them. Alex Jones and all these people. What a mess. But it is not easy to just monitor and censor all the podcasts like they're able to do with YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of the scumbag anti-American companies that are under attack from North Dakota, Ukraine, I think. Even Putin in Russia is calling them out. And Australia is having a battle because Australia wants their media companies paid by Facebook and Google, because Facebook and Google make all kinds of money off of them. So why don't they get some of that money? So Facebook tried to ban all of news articles and government official articles and so-called non-profit organization. They like willy-nilly banned a whole bunch of pages and then brought them back up because there was a whole major PR backlash because they were banning like people who were do-gooders, right? And you don't ban do-gooders, meaning like people who are distributing vaccines and stupid stuff like that, right? What a mess. But there are some freedom-minded people in, for example, North Dakota, from what I've understood, from what I've heard, and elsewhere. It's crazy. Liberals getting it because I think Murdoch is involved. You know, the Fox News Murdoch is involved in a major company down in Australia. They're not exactly conservative anymore. What a mess. Let me first get to Ben, a first-time caller in Maryland, wants to ask me a question, and then I will get to this lynchings story. Ben, what's up?
Good morning, Mr. Hake.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, I basically just wanted to question, just have your thoughts on the idea of anarcho-capitalism.
What is that, anarcho-capitalism, in short?
It's essentially the belief that there really is no need for a state per se, and that we should just rely on the private sector to complete essentially all our duties that we desire them to do so.
All our duties? What do you mean by duties?
I guess the most common one could be enforcement of the law, right? Police, a judicial system per se. Okay.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know. I don't have a big opinion on it. I think that we need morals first, and then we can worry about, you know what I mean? Because you can pick apart any old system and find flaws in it, but until the people are moral, no system's going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on that.
Yeah. I mean, there are some common sense things. Freedom is great, and hands-off type of government is great, especially when the people are under self-control, right? That's ideal. But I'm not sure. I don't know about this anarchy stuff, because there's a whole lot of socialists and communists who are anarchists. They're evil.
Yeah,
and people see, and there's a whole lot of communists that see capitalism as a stepping stone to communism, because they promote the degeneracy, and once you promote the degeneracy, then it makes it easy to come in with lies and deception and some type of control or other.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. Are you for it?
I am an anarcho-capitalist. I used to be just a classic conservative that believed, small government.
Right.
Now I believe in no government.
Now you believe in no government.
Yeah. Very radical, to say the least.
Yeah, I guess. Are you a Christian?
Not anymore.
No, really? Why not?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity.
I used to believe in the faith, but eventually fell out because I felt there wasn't sufficient evidence for me, and I felt that the spiritual side really wasn't there for me, like in terms of actually experiencing it within my life.
Yeah. Interesting. How long have you been basically an atheist then?
Oh, I'm not. I'm a theist.
Oh, okay, so you believe there's a God, but you just don't think that Christianity is the way.
Not necessarily, but I do respect lots of Christian morals and things like that.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, how can you not if you have any sanity?
Yeah.
Interesting. How long, though?
I guess since early last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been a ride.
What were you up to that prompted this crisis?
To be honest, I think I originally stopped believing around, I guess, February, March of last year. And I think that was because I started just questioning everything. And like, if I can pinpoint it, I would say that it was just the lack of the spiritual side of things for me.
Do you have a girlfriend?
No, I don't believe in that stuff.
Oh, you don't believe in having a girlfriend?
I mean, not for me personally, but I think it's better. Certain men are obviously not going to get married.
Are you Hispanic?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And you were raised in Maryland?
Correct.
Wow. How old are you?
17.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay, that makes sense. A lot of young people are atheists. I know one guy who was atheist at 12, turned atheist at 12. You have both parents?
Yeah.
Wow, man. Well, what a interesting life. What made you listen to our show? Jesse's show and my show?
Yeah, I originally discovered Jesse through Ray Comfort's Living Waters. He had a video of the Fallen State interview with, Jesse and Ray Comfort.
Yeah.
And then he has really interesting views. These views are just out of the water, right? That's what he thought. Because everybody was like saying, "Oh, he's a woman hater. He's just preaching crap." And I said, I want to see this for myself. So I started watching, and I was like, "Wow!" It really started changing my view set, my perspective on the world. Then I saw he started promoting the Hake Report, after the JLP show. So I said, okay, I'll take a try.
Right.
And now I'm watching the Hake Report.
Nice. Well, I appreciate it. It's good to hear from you. So
Yeah,
you're not into like homosexuality or anything like that, or sex out of, have you had sex out? Well, I don't know if I want to ask a personal question, but a lot of people turn into questioning Christianity and all those things, and you're a white Hispanic and slow.
I'm actually mixed.
Okay, nice. Well, it's just that there's a lot of people, especially like once they get into college, which you're just before college, but people that get into having sex, breaking the moral rules, they start to think that they can think for themselves and all that stuff. Oh, my stream dropped. I guess I'm back. Let me just make sure that I'm back online. Sorry, Ben. Hang tight one moment. I just want to make sure I'm streaming. I guess I'm back online. Am I here? Testing. Am I press 1 if I'm back? Okay, thanks. Okay, sorry guys. The stream dropped temporarily there. So, yeah, I don't know. I was just curious because a lot of times it's something else that prompts people to turn atheists. What did you say to whether you have both parents? I forget. I wasn't paying attention.
Wait, could you repeat that?
What did you say to whether you have both parents with you, your father and mother?
Correct.
You do? Okay. Your father is Christian or no?
They're both Christians.
Okay. Do they know that you're a theist now and not a Christian?
I personally do not speak about those things because they just make the household awkward,
Yeah. Are you planning on moving out next year or soon?
Yeah, that's my plan this year. Late this year would be really nice.
You planning to go to college or just work?
To be honest, I would like to try to go to work, but my parents are pushing college, and to be honest, if I try to argue against that, it's just not going to be a good time. So I'll just accept it.
But I'll tell you one thing. If they're not paying your way and, meaning you're working and taking care of yourself and you're 18, they can't force you. You don't even have to argue with them. You just move out and do your thing. You don't even have to argue with them about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope.
Just don't tell them right now.
Exactly.
It's totally up to you, but it sounds like you prefer to not do the college thing.
Yeah, I honestly don't want to spend 4 years of my life in that institution.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that parents realize how degenerate these schools are. It's only going to make your non-Christianity. I mean, I don't know. You may have a mind of your own, but it makes people's non-Christianity worse because it just promotes non-morals, anti-morals.
Yeah, wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So you definitely don't have to obey them. And anyway, you do you, man. But I think you are on the right track in not wanting to do it. To me. Have you tried Jesse Lee Peterson's silent prayer?
Yeah, I did it once actually.
Once, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did it once, and it was an experience for sure.
Yeah.
But then I started playing it again. I got to get back onto it because the first time was, wow, I'm honestly impressed how I felt.
You don't have to play it all the time. You know that, right?
Yeah, but it should just help guide me into what to do.
Did you forgive your parents like Jesse Lee Peterson recommends?
He told me, but he said to call him back when I do it, and I haven't done it yet so far.
Okay. All right, man. Well, it's fun to hear from you. We'll call again.
Yep, have a good one, Mr. Hake.
All right, you too. Take care. Interesting. So, guys, hang tight. Callers, I have T and Jesse and Jason and the rest of you guys. I read about lynchings, and I read about this communist singer, folk singer. Well, he's dead now. Woody Guthrie. Did you know that his name was Woodrow Wilson Guthrie? This guy. Is he a normal white or what is he? Was he raised a Christian? I don't know, because I didn't catch that. A fro white. Yeah. A lot of these folk singers, including, I think, the one who made America the Beautiful or something like that. Yeah, they might be like a Jewish white guy. Sometimes they call themselves white. Anyway, if you look at this guitar, and I guess he was known for this, according to Wikipedia and others. This guitar that he played, it has like a sticker-looking thing that says, "This machine kills fascists." And it's funny because when, I guess Hitler he was born before Hitler and all that, right? Well, before Hitler rose to power. When Hitler was just a soldier in the World War I. He was defending Hitler because Hitler made a deal with the USSR, right? Hitler and Russia. Germany and Russia. And they made a deal, and then Hitler supposedly broke the pact, and then that's when he started to oppose him. And I think that's what a whole lot of the liberal media was about. They were pro-Hitler. They had Hitler on the Time magazine covers, right? And that's not just because he was an influential person, but because they liked him because they thought that he got along okay with communism. I think, because a whole lot, basically the liberal media has been liberal for ages, I think, is what I gather, including these phony singers. This guy's a folk singer. I remember hearing my mother sing one of his most famous songs, "This Land Is Your Land," from something to New York Island, something like that. And it's liberal propaganda, communist propaganda, anti-American propaganda, I dare say. What a mess. So this machine kills fascists. And this guy, he was, according to Wikipedia, which is a very reliable source, not necessarily. And he was named, by the way, after Woodrow Wilson, who was also somewhat of a communist, I think. Very bad for America, evil person, from what I understand, based on people who know history better than me, such as the great Bill Lockwood says that Woodrow Wilson was no good. And I've heard other people talking about how subversive he was to real America. But his father really liked Woodrow Wilson, so he named his son, or maybe the mother did, who knows. They named their son after Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson Guthrie. Woody Guthrie. What a mess. And he was involved in communist groups, associated with them. He was, with the outbreak of World War II and the non-aggression pact of the Soviet Union had signed with Germany in 1939, the anti-Stalin owners of a radio station were not comfortable with Guthrie's political leanings after he wrote a song praising the Hitler-Stalin pact and the Soviet invasion of Poland. He left the station and made these Dust Bowl ballads, right? Because the Dust Bowl, he lived through the Dust Bowl. But he had this machine kills communists because he was for the Communist Party. This machine kills fascists. Did I say the wrong word? Pretending that it's faith. Patriotism and faith in America. He conceptualized fascism as an ideology, listen to this, as a form of economic exploitation similar to slavery. You know how people call us debt slaves, right? Because we get into so much debt, meaning the country gets into so much debt, and then all of us people are debt slaves. And then they make it hard for people to live because they encourage women to work, and then people get into debt, and then they encourage people to go to college and waste their money, and encourage people they get into The government gets in bed with the pharmaceutical companies and raises the cost of medical stuff because it's just subsidized stuff and it raises costs. They subsidize housing, it raises costs. All this stuff raises the costs, and then you have to have two people working, the father and mother. You don't have to, but it's so common. People feel like they have to. And that's debt slaves, right? A form of economic exploitation similar to slavery. That sounds like, if based on his description of fascism, it sounds like the Democrats and the rhinos are fascists, and that Trump was not for that. But from what I understand, fascism is actually like extreme nationalism, supposedly like that, and it's just right of communism, from what I understand, according to Bill Lockwood. Bill Lockwood says it's pretty far left. It's just not as far left as communism. So everything right wing is fascist, but it's really not. It's just conservative. So anyways, he's denouncing fascists, especially their leaders, as a group of gangsters who set out to rob the world. Sounds familiar? They're accusing us of doing what they're doing. The people who accuse Trump supporters of being fascists. Robbing the world? Give me a break. So anyway, he was basically a useful idiot if this stuff is true and he really believed this. And a lot of these, oh, by the way, he lionized, he had songs that lionized the Old West, outlaws like Jesse James, Calamity Jane, the Dalton Gang, as legitimate acts of social responsibility, the ultimate expression of protest. And that's what you see with these Antifa people. Yeah, maybe those guys were, who knows? But they act like the criminals. Looting is a valid form of protest. No, it's not. It's evil. But pretending that the outlaw is a partisan in a fight against those who were corrupt politicians, right? Just turning morals on its head. Anything to push degeneracy and validate and heroize the criminal. That's why they kiss up to blacks so much. Black Lives Matter. Antifa supports Black Lives Matter, by the way. FYI, if you didn't know. So pretending that people aren't mere outlaws in a fascist state, they're just legitimate protesters, anti-fascists. What? He was a dedicated communist, according to this Wikipedia quote. So they come to find out that his father was allegedly involved in a lynching. And his father was supposedly a conservative Democrat. Although how conservative could you be if you idolized Woodrow Wilson? Was Woodrow Wilson as bad as a New Jersey governor? Because this was when he was a New Jersey governor. As he became as a president? Was he this evil? I wonder if he regretted naming his son after Woodrow Wilson. Charles Guthrie. Charles Guthrie being the father of Woody Guthrie. But anyway, I looked into this lynching because they were from Oklahoma. And there was this lynching in 1911, allegedly, according to the report, right, of Laura and L.D. Nelson. 2011, Oklahoma. And Woody Guthrie, by the way, wrote 3 songs about the event in the 60s. He said his father became a member of the KKK during its revival in 1915. So all the liberals were in this KKK thing too, by the way. Just a side note. I mean, who knows? They just malign their past and put their past as though we were part of it. And then they malign the best parts of what they were about in many cases. Evil never is good at calling out evil. May 25th, 1911, they're photographed. Many times photographers would photograph it. Sometimes, from what I read, they would document what the crime was supposed to be. In this case, it was a murder. A murder of a cop killer. And it was a young man, age 15 or 16, according to the story. Young black male, age 15 or 16, and his mother who handed him the rifle. She pulled out the rifle and he grabbed it and pumped the shotgun and fired a shot, or a ball, through the leg of the local police officer in this case. And the police officer was on their property because they had stolen a steer. And you don't steal a steer. That's like a life and death situation. If you lose a cow, that is a big part of your livelihood, right? So stealing was a major crime back in the day. Stealing today is an inconvenience, according to present day, right? Major inconvenience. Oh, my car got stolen. Guess I got to take an Uber. If your horse gets stolen, you're stranded. You could die. So it's like a major problem for theft. And in this case, these people allegedly stole a steer of somebody, and they cut it up, and they found some of the steer under the hay. The cops did. And I don't know if it was at nighttime or what, but this good cop, reportedly a good cop, and his posse showed up at the place, searched, and wanted to search some more. And according to the story, the mother was like, after this guy got shot in the leg by her son, she's all, let the white blank die, according to the newspaper report. So these people weren't lynched just because they were black. They were lynched because they were black and they committed a cop killing, allegedly, right? And because they had, I don't know if they would have been lynched if they had just stolen, but they stole the steer, allegedly. And then they killed a cop when confronted. And by the way, the media at the time, much of the media, local media, maybe not the national media, because the national media was already turning liberal. The local media cast these people as prone to crime. And what do you do when you deal with crime? You come down hard on it and send a message, especially when it's when it's between communities. No, you don't violate our community and steal our stuff and murder our cops. So they went and lynched these people. Crazy, huh? And I don't know if they had been, I don't know if he'd been convicted, but reportedly they were guilty. Reportedly, right? Isn't that interesting? And less than 3/4 of the people who were lynched were black. Some were white, some were Asian, some were Indian, Hispanic. Some were lynched, sometimes blacks lynched whites, by the way, FYI. A very few. And blacks lynched blacks. And many times it wasn't just because they were black. It was because they were black and committed a crime. Allegedly. Many times it wasn't proven. There was another major lynching that was used by the NAACP under W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois was basically a communist, right? Anti-American. He left America, but he was involved in the National Association Against Colored People, right? And maybe it wasn't as evil back then as it is today, but maybe it was back just as evil, because W.E.B. Du Bois was no good. He was an evil person, from what I understand. But W.E.B. Du Bois jumped on this one case of a lynching, a different lynching. And this one's kind of graphic, so I don't want to show it too closely. But in Waco, Texas, another man, young man, 17, 18 years old, black. I don't know if he was he was some type of worker, right? He was working for this English couple. And he was alleged to have, and actually convicted of, murdering and possibly raping an English woman who came to the area. And she was found beaten to death, basically. And they found him with blood on his overalls, and he said, oh, it's from a nosebleed. And then they took him in, and eventually he confessed and told him where the hammer was that he used, or the mallet or whatever it was that he used to beat this woman. I guess she according to this story, right? And we don't know what exactly happened. It's hard enough to know what happened present day. But according to the story, they were fighting over what she was domineering to him. Isn't that typical, like a woman domineering to a worker? And he didn't like that. And they were arguing about mules or something a day or two before. And this guy was very low IQ, couldn't even be taught to read. They tried to teach him to read, but no, they couldn't read. And this guy told them where the hammer was, and they found the bloody hammer, that the alleged murder weapon. And then he was convicted. But the day he was convicted, the lynch mob was so hyped about it because they said, oh, it was one of the most brutal murders that can take place. So, and people were calling each other because they had phones back then. And so there was a huge crowd reportedly, right? Supposedly it was 10 to 15,000 people at this lynching in Waco, Texas in 12, 11, 13, whatever. Maybe it was earlier than that. But it was within a few years of that. And they dragged this guy, tortured him. And by they, I mean, like there were a few excessively angry people in the crowd that just brutalized and mutilated him. There were people who were supportive of the lynching, meaning, yes, he should get the death penalty. And then there were people who were like, no, but he shouldn't be, they shouldn't, because they just mutilated him. I don't even sure I want to describe what they did to him. But, and some say they tried to keep him alive to just torture him. But it was just awful. And there's a picture of his, you've probably seen the picture in the past because they use it as, oh, this is racism. This is white supremacy. This is to promote white supremacy. It turned out to be very bad for the town and for the practice of lynching because it looked so brutal, so over the top. Many in the town did not support what was happening. But how are you gonna, are people as cowardly then as they were people as cowardly then as they are today? Are you gonna stop somebody who's just brutalizing a person? You see pictures of people just taking a bat to bicyclists. There was a viral video of a black guy taking a bat to a cyclist. Jesse Washington was a black they call him African American, which is fake. He was a black 17-year-old farmhand lynched in the county of Waco, Texas, May 15th, 1916. And this was investigated by a woman, a so-called white woman, who was hired by the NAACP. And they didn't give credit to her. But that's probably to protect her because she lied to these people and said, oh, I want to defend Waco. But really, she was getting information to put out propaganda. And the New York Times came out with an article, and that London came out with an article within days of this thing happening, saying, no, the New York Times said, no other place in the world, in the civilized world, can tens of thousands or 10,000 people show up to such a brutal thing and be celebrating it. Some people were celebrating it. There were kids who got his teeth out of his skull after the incident and kept them as souvenirs. That was wild. But anyway, it was an event that looks like the guys went too far. You know, the people who lynched him went too far. The specific ones, there were some who didn't approve of that. They were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But how are you going to stop it? Took a chain to him, dragged him through the town, all kinds of stuff. Burned him. Terrible. But he had committed a crazy murder. Some speculate that he may not have even been guilty. But those are people speculating today. And by the way, there were reports that there were blacks in the crowd, because they don't like this type of crime going on. But some are dubious of that. But the people who are dubious of that are historians living today, female liberal historians. What are you going to believe? I don't know. So you're not getting the whole story when they talk about lynching. They say lynched just because he's black. No, he's black and he committed a crazy crime against a white. And they didn't like inter-community violence like they like it today. They didn't cover it up like they do today. If anything, they hyped it like Earl said they did. Anyway. So it was, they documented it. That was well documented, that case. Anyway, that's the story of lynchings, and Woody Guthrie's father involved in one of them. And I don't know. Justice should be swift. I'm not for lynchings. People should be convicted and tried and executed summarily if they're guilty of something that deserves the death penalty. But nowadays, it's the opposite extreme. It's like you commit all these crazy crimes and you're living forever. It's a mess. And then you get to cost the government, which is meaning us, the taxpayers, all kinds of money with appeals courts and all that stuff. And then they pretend, oh, we need to get rid of the death penalty because it's too expensive. It's only expensive because you're allowing sleazy lawyers and judges to exploit the system. What a mess. Anyway, that's my take on what went down. Those are two very famous lynchings that took place. And these guys may well have been guilty of the crime that they were suspected of. Anyway, let me get to... Oh, man, one of my callers dropped. But anyway, let me get to T in Alabama. What's up, T? How are you doing?
Doing fine, James. How you doing, man?
Fine as well. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Lynchings. But before I get to that, man, you need to read up a story on do you know who the youngest execution death row victim was in this country?
No.
And how old he was?
Not offhand. No, I don't.
Well, I want you to read up on Stenny Jones or Johnson.
That sounds familiar. I might have read that before.
Yeah, you might have, yeah. And, so and I'm quite sure you know what I'm getting at. He was a 14-year-old black kid that was accused of something he didn't do and was the youngest ever person put on electrocuted in this country.
And he was innocent?
Yeah, he was innocent, yeah.
Huh.
He was exonerated years. And
when was this?
This probably happened back in 1940-something.
Huh. This is why we need to... People overcompensate when somebody does wrong, especially when a white does something wrong. And I don't know if the story that you're telling me is true, but they overcompensate and say, they point to this and say, see, we need to overhaul this whole system. This system is white supremacist. It's so ridiculous.
Well,
do you support the death penalty?
Okay. So what?
Do you support the death penalty?
Support it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? In some cases, I do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but white people have been in control of the system. They make the rules. I mean, back then, white people were just low down.
Do you think white people are in control of the system today?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
That's not true.
Who are the majority of the politicians that you see in Congress and so forth, man? They're white.
Those are not normal Christian whites who are running the country.
You're going with the Christians, See, and this is my point about. I wanted to ask you.
Because we're a Christian country, T.
What does it say we're a Christian country?
Why do you think there are so many Trump supporters and people who are white who are very dissatisfied with the government if the whites are so in control?
Well, because white folks are afraid they losing their power. That's why. Okay.
This is such a typical statement. You don't really think for yourself. You just repeat what the dumb academics say.
No.
You sound like a woman saying that.
You don't think for yourself.
You sound like a woman saying whites are losing their power.
What white folks are afraid of, and this is powerful people.
Do you listen to this show, T? Do you listen to this show?
Listen, James. Can we have a conversation, man?
No, but yeah, we're having a conversation. Do you listen to this show?
When people don't.
T.
Yeah, I listen to the show.
T.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And people listen to Jesse Lee Peterson's show. Many white people listen to my show. And they're not upset about so-called losing power. They're upset about injustice and insanity and anti-Christian stuff. This is not a loss of power thing. And yes, it would be good if we had power. Therefore, we should take the power and and put things back for what's right again. But it's
white
actual
America,
injustice.
Specifically, white men have not been the dominant power structure in this country, James.
Not in my lifetime. Not in my lifetime.
Oh, it hasn't?
No.
So, in your lifetime, all the presidents been of a different color. All majority of the representatives, the senators, and political powers, they've been majority like of people of color.
See, the point is they're anti-justice.
No, I'm just asking.
No, because you're shallow. You're shallow, T.
No, you're shallow.
Because you're looking at the listen, T. You're looking at the color of the presidents as if that says anything about the injustice that's going on.
That's all you guys talk about is skin color.
No, it's not true.
And that's my question to you, man.
That's not true.
Are you a Christian or you just simply believe in the
But you don't care about Christianity because the reason that whites are dissatisfied with the country is because it's anti-Christian.
No, whites ain't satisfied with that.
Because it's anti-Christian, exactly.
Majority of the people that called in Jesse Lee Peterson's show are hateful, mindless white folks that they found a platform in Jesse Lee Peterson, who is a black man, to call in and say what the hell they want about black folks and minorities. You know, that's what he gives.
That just shows how hateful and blind you are, because the people who call into the show appreciate hearing the truth.
It gives you the avenue as a white person to say what you want to say.
I'm not into being white. I'm into the truth a little bit more than being white.
You into propaganda. That's what you into.
I propagate the truth, yes. I like to propagandize the truth and put the truth out.
Lies, the point is this. Jesse Lee sitting on his show and showed
You're not going to talk about Jesse Lee. You're banned from the Jesse Lee Peterson show. So you come in to sneak onto my show and talk about, oh, Jesse Lee. T is a ridiculous person. Reprobata from D Live says, best part of the show right here. James is back. Oh, man. Let me talk with Jason in Bakersfield, California. What's up, Jason? How are you doing?
Hake with the good hair. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
I love your show. I love Jesse Lee Peterson's show.
Nice.
I love everything. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Just real quick. The civil rights movement, the Martin Luther King, I've heard Jesse Lee talk about, that's one of the worst things that kind of happened to the black community, so to speak.
Yeah. Shill rights.
Right. Like, Martin Luther King, he was definitely a flawed man, right? I mean, one could say, oh, yeah, he had some, good ideas on paper, but, execution-wise, it sucked. And him personally speaking, there's all the hearsay about, how flawed he was.
Right.
Whether he plagiarized his writings or speeches and or infidelity. That's all hearsay, right? We're not here to judge, as Jesse Lee always said, but we can discern. Am I right? And, like the civil rights movement, it's kind of based on the fact that it forces people to love one another, right, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, like,
misguided, huh?
Yeah, it's misguided, right? It's not about black and white. It's about evil. You know what I mean? And so you can't say, oh, you have to love that person. Obviously, everyone being equal, and that's in that Constitution. But it's just, Martin Luther, kind of selling, the black people to the Democratic Party. Whether that shift was kind of taking place before him, but finally, being the nail in the coffin, selling the black vote to the Democratic Party to Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah,
that definitely kind of was the worst thing, and that's not talked about much. Jesse Lee Peterson mentions it, but I do think that should be talked about more. You know what I mean?
We need to talk about reality. Yeah. Because people will argue forever about what happened with this, what happened with Trayvon Martin, what happened with the Central Park Five, what happened with the lynchings, what happened with slavery. And meanwhile, they're missing present day reality. You hear it from Earl all the time. He thinks he knows so much about history, and he thinks he knows so much about what's going on today or what just happened recently today. But he can't see what's before his eyes, that the culture is anti-justice, anti-white. I mean, he's blind himself. So, yeah.
There's brainwashed people, right? I mean, that's just the reality, right? And at the end of the day, it's all about right or wrong, right? Is it evil?
Yep.
And, that civil rights movement, it is something that was, that was an evil movement in a sense, right? I mean, it sounds like blasphemous to say, oh, civil rights, that was bad, that was evil. No, the point is you can't force someone to love you, right? It has to happen, organically, you know what I mean? Right?
Yep.
It can't be forced upon. And so, I think, there's that's brought the Black community, back. It's brought them. They're behind, so to speak, in that sense, right? And look at the Black community; they vote Democrat, over 90%.
Yep.
If that's not brainwashed in a sense, right?
Misguided,
right?
Completely brainwashed.
Misguided.
Yep.
And so, let's get that message out there, right? That civil rights movement. And I'm not talking about Martin Luther King, right? He may have been good. He probably has more good than evil.
I don't know. I don't know. It's irrelevant, really.
Right.
People, I just know that a bunch of evil people use them. And I notice that both sides use them, which makes me leery.
Right. So can we,
So-called.
Yeah, get that message out there. I don't know if that's possible. You're doing, Jesse Lee and you're making the message go out there.
Yeah.
Every single weekday, And so, I'm really glad to have you back, right? We missed you, right?
Nice. Thanks, man.
But just get that out there. I don't know, now I'm just rambling, but, the civil rights movement, it's always been kind of like a sticking point. Jesse Lee's highlighted it for me, and let's
I love the principle that he said, a business has the right to discriminate, and human beings have the right to discriminate. All we do is discriminate, and they're discriminating against us for the purpose of evil. Why can't we discriminate against evil for the purpose of good? And anyways, you don't want to force people to serve somebody. That's ridiculous. It doesn't even make any sense. It's only breeding resentment and suspicion and rewarding false accusations and accusatory vengefulness. It's crazy. I appreciate it, Jason.
Can I ask one more thing?
Yeah.
Just real quick. What is it with America just kind of it's like we bow down to China now. We're bought and paid for by the Communist Party. Because
America is human beings are so weak, and weak people, the worst of the weak people, are running the country. So we're going to bow to all kinds of evil. We'll bow to, we being the people running America, will bow to Black Lives Matter. They'll bow to China. They'll bow to the UN. They'll bow to the World Health Organization. They'll bow to the women, the Me Too accusers, Mexico, everything. We're never going to stop bowing until we have men in charge again, and men who are actually men. You know what I mean?
I did notice one thing, and I'll leave you with this. There was a screenshot going around on Twitter. And basically, it was the White House YouTube page, and basically it was President Biden and Vice President Harris meeting with labor leaders to discuss the American Rescue Plan, and they turned off the comments, so no people couldn't comment, and it was liked by 350 people, but disliked by 6,000 people at the time of the video, right?
Yeah, that's funny. More, right? While it was streaming.
Right.
That's what I love to see. Because I love to see YouTube videos of Biden getting major dislikes. I mean, it's a bright spot because it shows that there are people who are not falling for the ridiculous madness, in my opinion. I love
Anyways,
it.
Hake, you're the man. I appreciate you, and I look forward to calling back again. So
Right on,
you.
Jason. It's good to hear from you. Take care.
Appreciate it.
All right. Let me just double check something. Yeah, I think that's everything. Okay. Oh, you know what? Somebody gave me a tip. Asmodor said, George Stinney was not exonerated. 70 years later, a judge decided with no evidence that his confession was probably coerced. Yeah, they want to just push this thing, push this endless victimhood, fake victimhood. And that's a reference to, I believe, the youngest person who got executed back when we were men and we actually executed people. And punishment was swift. And by the way, why shouldn't we get upset about losing power? Are we supposed to be serfs in our own country? Exactly. You know, there are whites who are committing terrorism in America. Reminds me of like some of the Muslim radicals committing terrorism in their own countries. Because there's a, well, in our case, there's like an insanity pushed on the country, an anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-sane. But a lot of these terrorists who are actual terrorists, I'm not talking about the Capitol riots. I'm talking about like actual shootings, mass shootings, such as the El Paso shooter. That guy was a blind, brainwashed person who believed in eco-fascism. Oh, the overpopulation pushed by these immigrants is causing job losses, which that part is true, job losses. And the automation is going to make us lose a bunch of jobs. We need these people out. And on top of that, this overpopulation is polluting the world or causing global warming. Crazy people. Anyway, let me get to Rick in Hampton, Virginia. Rick, what's up? Oh, Rick is not ready. Let me get to Jesse in California. Jesse, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, Hake?
Hey, going well. How about you?
I'm doing well.
Nice.
Yeah, I just wanted to, well, first off, I got a message for T or whatever. I wanted to tell him, like, slavery was pretty much just hard work, man.
Yeah.
It was needed to build this country, and fat people on welfare aren't oppressed. You got to be, like, starving.
Right.
To be, But anyway, I just want to tell you we're pretty much how, like, BML, where they're getting all their, like, tactics from and all these like, anarchists.
You mean
people,
BLM?
pretty much.
BLM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much how they all got conceived. There's this guy, his name's Gene Sharp. He's a neoliberal, like a left-winger.
Okay.
And he's pretty much wrote these manuals to start, like, how to throw governments, pretty much overthrow them. And he pretty much was involved in, like, since the Cold War to, like, 2006, involved in 2016, involved in most of the coups, right? He's responsible for the Arab Spring.
Wow.
He wrote this book, it's a manual called from How to Start a Revolution.
Uh-huh.
And pretty much all those tactics that BML used, they're pretty much using straight out of that book. And it's governments use that guy because it's way cheaper than starting a campaign.
Wow. And he was you said he was a neoliberal? Isn't that the same thing as like a neocon, except a little bit more left-wing?
Yeah, but he started the Albert Einstein Institute.
Yeah, the Albert Einstein Institute, something like that, institution.
Yeah.
Wow. What a mess.
Yeah, so, and
Terrible.
then, so that guy pretty much, all of their tactics are pretty much getting ripped out of there, and it's like, governments are using that now, like, through the internet because it's cheaper. So it makes fake videos.
Yeah.
And like, make T-shirts, hashtags. That's all pretty much out of that guy's book. So
crazy.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what they're using. It's like they're not smart and they're not coming out of this stuff with like, out of the blue. Like this.
There have been clever evil people who have come up with ways to promote evil. That's very
that
true.
guy worked for the Rand Corporation too. So,
really? He did?
Yes. He's
dead now, but
he's part of social engineering and all that crap,
nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2015. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know because most of the people nominated for that stuff are evil, except for Trump, I think. Yeah, wow.
The real one. But yeah, that's pretty much, man. And then all those, he's the one kind of made the influence of the anarchy in America, like, people kind of start thinking like that. Like, the people who really think that, they have no clue how much bloodshed that would take to get to that point, to have a, anarchist society. Like, they don't understand the whole concept,
Yeah.
How much violence would be involved in that. Like, it's people living in a dream pretty much.
And like I mentioned earlier, people come up with all kinds of excuses to hate decent people, such as Rush Limbaugh. They say, oh, he was full of hate for anybody who wasn't white and male and whatever, Christian. That's not true, I don't think. And even if he did, who cares? What does it mean to you? All he did was talk. All he did was talk and influence some people. But nobody did anything outright evil after listen. I mean, you can say, oh, we went to wars and he supported that. Okay, but that's not the reason that these people think he's evil. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's just been indoctrinated through schools, and everybody, instead of just living a regular night life, now everybody has to be a millionaire investor and a stockbroker and an actor and this and that.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, wow. Appreciate the tip.
Yeah.
Gene Sharp. What a mess.
Check that dude out. Yeah, Gene Sharp.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate that.
All right, man. You guys take care.
All right. You as well. Let me get back to Rick. I think he's ready. What's up, Rick?
James, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry about that, James. I hit my phone. I said, oh, man, I'm lost. Call right back, though, man. But I'm sorry about that, because usually out here in Cheatham on this military base, sometimes the signal can be bad.
Yep.
I have to move around trying to get a good signal. But I'm here on the East Coast, Cheatham Weapons Base.
Wow, nice. Right on.
Yeah, man. So, you know what I want to comment on? You know how Stacey Abrams and Roland Martin, they always say, if you deny there's voter suppression, you don't talk to me. I'm like, and I like said, I've been voting for years. I never had any problems or nothing. It's like Roland Martin said, it's hard for them to get ID.
It's a lie. Yeah. No, they're such liars. They would just want to say, just because it's inconvenient, you got to wait in line for hours sometimes to vote.
Right.
And that is inconvenient. I'm not particularly fond of waiting in line to vote, but to call that voter suppression, that's just poor management on the part of some of these people. But they want to make it excessively convenient and to remove all checks, all voter integrity measures. And call it racist if you want voter ID. Give me a break. Sleazy liars.
Crazy.
And people are so dumb that they fall for it.
They absolutely, like I said, I have never had any problem. Even if you need to get your birth certificate, you just mail you. I'm like this. If they want to go to a party, they will find a way to get there.
Yep, true.
But yet, when it comes to getting ID, I'm like this. If a guy is too sorry to get an ID, I don't want my daughter even looking at him at all.
Yep.
And they claim like voter suppression. Show an ID.
Right.
What's voter suppression about that? I mean, you should have your birth certificate, your Social Security card. You should have all those documents anyway. That's the first thing my mom did when I graduated from high school.
Yeah.
She gave me my birth certificate and my Social Security card. Said, this is the only way you get it from me. If you lose it, you got to get it yourself.
Yeah.
And I still got my original birth certificate my mom gave me when I graduated from high school back in '88.
Wow, very nice.
And it kills me how people don't safeguard their vital document.
Yeah.
It just they can't get a birth certificate. You can do that online. And I'll tell you, for here, this area here, voting, man, they did all they can to accommodate vote. They had early voting.
Yeah. No, and that's
absentee ballot. Well, of course, they did a lot of mail-in, just giving people ballots that they didn't even ask for one.
To be honest, we shouldn't even be making it so easy, because these people they don't even deserve to be voting. They don't know anything. And they're so lied to, and they buy these lies because they're predisposed to hate whites by the brainwashing.
I don't
it's a mess.
get it, man. It's just children and how they talk about it. I said, man, I don't know what Rona's told. Oh, yes, it is. If you say there's not Rona suppression, I said, I will have to say I have never experienced it.
Yep.
And that guy that called from Alabama, he just hearing a lot of stuff he hears from, what's that, black liberation theology and other angles.
Right.
That whites are just losing their power.
Yeah. No, I've heard that line so often, and it's just a caricature of what's going on. As if, a white society is more fair to everybody than the society that they're building now. A white Christian one, anyway. But it's anti-Christian. Anyway, I got to go. Rick, appreciate talking with you. It's good to hear from you.
Love you guys. Have a great weekend, man. I'll talk to you Monday. Lord, say the same.
That sounds good. Thank you again. The rest of the callers, I cannot get to you. Mays in Dayton wanted to talk about lynchings history. We'll talk next week. You and Earl talk about these lynchings. And Chrissy in Florida wanted to talk about black supremacy. I cannot get to you guys and the rest of you, but we'll talk next week, I believe, right? And there was no Sunday service throwback this past week. Apologies, guys. Well, we should be back on track next week. And I don't believe that there is a fallen state today. No fallen state today, but we are having Church with Jesse Lee Peterson. Church with Jesse Lee Peterson every Sunday, 11 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time. Rebuildingtheman.com/church. The Sunday service throwbacks are there, the old archive podcasts. And of course, sign up for the mailing list there. You can donate through that page. Scroll down. There's a way to donate and find the silent prayer there too. Download the audio or get the video, whatever you want to do. All right, guys? TheHakeReport.com for my stuff, including the news reports, mine, and the write-ups for these shows. Thanks, guys. Take care.